This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you by the Daily Herald.
So we're sitting here with Mike Kennedy. He's no stranger to the podium for the 3A Boys Track and Field State Meet. Neuqua Valley head coach. Mike, thanks for giving us a couple minutes of your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure to do so.
So we're just about a week removed from the 3A meet, and like I said, you have been on the podium many times before. In 2015, no different. Tied for second place with 37 points. For those who weren't in Charleston for the meet, just kind of give us a wrap-up of what happened and how you guys were so successful come the end of the meet.
Well, it was a tough meet for us. One of the things that happened both on Friday and on Saturday was that the time schedule got bumped up. So we were running on a rolling time schedule, and for some of our athletes, Zach Espinoza or Ty Moss, who were in a large number of events, this really required them to be on all day long and to not really know when they're going to be running again. Sometimes they were in the field house, waiting for their event to come back as weather passed, or sometimes they were coming back really, really quickly with short notice. And what really was impressive for our athletes is how well they responded to all that adversity. They just rolled with it. They didn't let it affect them. They didn't let it affect their performance. And in the end, what we saw as we were approaching the 4x4 was that we had a chance to take home a trophy, and it was going to be close. It was going to be really, really close. As a matter of fact, it was going to be so close that the Ty Moss came up to the coaches and said, "We know how close it's going to be. We know that the coaches had already figured some things out, but we know how close it's going to be. Just don't tell everybody else. Just leave it to us. We have it." And so what happened is, in the end, we were a few points down where it wasn't sure if we were going to get a trophy. And we figured out that if we could take better than third and beat Evanston, then we would take home a trophy. And especially we would take home second place if we met both those conditions. And we did. We beat Evanston in the 4x4, getting 1 point higher than them in that race, but then tying them overall for the team score, and that was it. When that happened, our section of the stands just went crazy. And we have to hand it off to Edwardsville, who had an incredible meet. What a great team. Evanston, the same thing. We talked to the Evanston coaches afterwards, and they pretty much said, "Hey, if you're not in the 4x4, you're not in the big show at the end." So it was fun to have that final race with them.
It's always interesting. I've been to many track meets over the last couple of years, and it's very interesting being at a track meet. It's sort of a relaxed environment in a way. Things are spread out, different events are going on at the same time. And then sort of at the end of the meet, sometimes at least, and it was the case for you this past weekend, where everything just zones in. You know exactly what you need. It becomes a pressure-packed situation. Knowing what you needed for that, and knowing that you weren't out there running yourself, you're the coach. You have to watch your athletes run out there. How nerve-wracking is that, watching things unfold in front of you?
Well, it's strange, because one of the things that we say as coaches is our days of winning championships are over. It doesn't really belong to us. It belongs to the athletes. So, it's hard to say nervous. It's a combination of so many different things, because you just want to see your athletes out there competing well and giving it their best. If they do that, all the pieces will fall in the right place. And so you just want to make sure that they have a good race. But the other part of that is we have no control over what's going to happen. We're not allowed on the track. We're not allowed past the tent area. So when it comes up, here we are basically powerless. All the work that we can do with them is during the training period. And then once that's over, here we are, spectators. And that's strange. And what you said is absolutely correct. In most track meets, you don't necessarily even know the score until the end of the meet. Fortunately, the state meet, things are updated regularly, and that you can look online and see how people are doing. And we were sitting there trying to figure out, where are other athletes, and like who has somebody in the 4x4 and who doesn't, and where's this race really going to come down to. And we were looking at other events too. Has this high jump been scored yet? Has the pole vault been scored? And we were trying to figure out our own score and even the potential of what other teams could do in the end.
Let's talk about Ty Moss, who is an anchor in a couple of your relays. Fantastic runner, fantastic career wrapping up here. He's going to Nebraska next year, but before he goes off to Nebraska, give us a sense of what he's brought to this program, the sense of success and hard work that he's brought to this program.
Ty Moss is one of the best leaders that we have ever had. There's no question about it. When you look at an athlete who has been 6-time All-State, He has been on a state champion 4x8. He is a state champion of his own right in the 800. What he really gave to us was a sense that anything is possible when we step on that track, and that he would do anything it took to make sure that that happened. Last year, we asked him to do what was considered unthinkable, and even his father wasn't a big fan of this plan originally. But when we sat him down and said, Ty, do you think you can run the 4x8, the 800, and the 4x4? And he gave it a shot at the Downers Grove meet, and it went okay. It wasn't perfect. And then we said, do you think you could do it again? And he did it in spectacular fashion at the state meet. He ran 6 races in 2 days. And that just showed how far he is willing to go for our team. Some athletes, they maybe are able to do 1 or 2 events, maybe squeak something out. He was willing to race some challenging races. 800 and 400s are rough races. And he was able to put them back to back to back. And as a matter of fact, he'd get excited between each race and say, hey, I just cannot wait to run it again. And even that really spread. If you look at, for instance, what Zach Espinoza even did when he was down there. Zach and Ty are good friends, and Zach was willing to put in whatever races were necessary for the team. And in fact, that's one of the things that they both said to me was, whatever it takes for the team is what we'll do.
And I think that's good that you brought up Zach Espinoza, because him and Ty and Isaiah Robinson, and Matt Horsley, part of a relay team for a while now. And
right.
The relay team, due to injuries, just due to individual performances, it's a 4-part group. It can fluctuate over the course of a season. What was the fluctuation of this 4x8 and 4x4 team that over the course of the season went up and down and eventually had a very nice ending to its season?
Right, and one of the things, we've had basically 8 members on each of those relay teams. And it has alternated. From the Mustang relays to indoor conference to outdoor conference, we've had pieces switch in and switch out. But the way we look at it as a school and as a team is any one of those 8 members contributed to that relay. They are a part of that victory in the end. They are part of the points that we score in the end. And so the first thing I do, which I've already done, I make sure to order medals for all of those other guys who do not necessarily, they may not have stepped foot on the track in the 4x8 or the 4x4, but they were every bit a member of that team throughout the entire season. If they ran it once and they were successful for us in that relay, that's something that our team appreciates, that it's meaningful for us.
Moving on to some of the other runners that occupy the track here at Neuqua. Connor Horn, a nice season. We saw him during cross-country season, and he sort of parlayed that success onto the track, 4th place in the 3,200 meter. What about his season?
He had an absolutely phenomenal season, had a little bit of what we thought was an injury setback sometime in the middle of just after the indoor season, and it got us a little worried, but then he rebounded from that really quickly. When we got to the end of the season, we saw him in so many different events. We had him in the 4x8 on day 1. When we originally looked at sectionals, we put him in both the 3,200 meter and the 1,600 meter. But then when we got downstate, we decided to put all of our eggs into the 3,200 meter basket with him. We thought if he could get into that race relatively fresh, that he could have an outstanding finish. And boy, did he. I mean, he had an incredible kick at the end, passing the 2 Yorkville runners to put us into 4th, which was a huge point score. And if you look at even Connor or any of the athletes along the way so far, if they had scored 1 or 2 less points, we don't take home a trophy. So every little bit mattered. And so that, a guy like Connor passing 2 athletes in the end, that's part of that trophy that we have.
We've already mentioned that Ty is going off to Nebraska, and Zach is a guy that's going off to Stanford. Stanford, no stranger to getting some Neuqua runners in the past. How gratifying is that for a coach? You watch these guys grow up right before your eyes, and then you send them off into the world. You're sort of like a parent in a way. You watch them grow up, you send them off into the world, off to college to continue doing what they love.
It is very, very gratifying to think that we had a part. It might be a small part, but we had a part in helping them prepare and helping them maybe gaining a love for this sport. We've had 3 athletes go to Stanford. We've had O.J. Oshinoa, we've had Chris Derrick, and now we're going to have Zach Espinoza. And now we're going to have 2 athletes who went to Nebraska with Jake Bender and now Ty Moss. And it's so gratifying. And I know my assistants feel the exact same way, that we're humbled to have a presence in in their beginning track experience. Even one of the traditions we do just after the state meet, it's a rough tradition, is we come right here, we pull the bus right to this parking lot, and it's around 10 o'clock or later at night, and we do one last lap with the seniors. And it's an emotional time for us because they mean a lot to us. And this group in particular was an amazing senior class.
Looking on to next year and to the next group that will make inroads for this program, it will have to do that in the DVC. You know, leaving the UEC, and lots of great talent in the DVC. Have you had any cursory thoughts heading into next season about the type of competition that you'll be facing?
Well, one of the things is, you know, we're sort of bittersweet to leave the UEC. We've got there's some great colleagues there that we've worked with for years. Going into the DVC, we know some of those coaches already just because they're big on the state scene. And so that's going to be an interesting transition for us. But at the same time, while it is going to be nice to have a little bit more of a close-knit group locally, you know, these are Wheatons and Napervilles who are right in our backyard. That's going to be really nice to compete against them. At the same time, we're always going to keep our eye on the overall state. You know, that is where we typically put our focus. But at the same time, we want to show what we can do as a team in the conference meet. So we'll always try to put together the best team we can for showing at the DVC now that we're with those guys. And they have a great tradition, and we're thrilled to be with them.
So even though the competition may change locally, but you're worried about at the end of the year, what happened, the athletes you're going to be facing at the end of the year?
We are. We're worried about the state level. You know, we're worried about what we can do down there. And the good thing is, though, with the competition and with some of the things we've already seen with the DVC, they're going to help us get ready for that. They're going to help us get ready for the end of the season with providing opportunities for athletes to compete against great competition.
Well, Coach, 2 seconds and a third place over the course of your helm here at Neuqua Valley. Another fantastic year. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.